Recently, Bob Chipman, aka Movie Bob for the Escapist magazine, aka the Game Overthinker, posted Adventures of the Game Overthinker episode 91 on YouTube. Yeah, I know, it was available a month ago on Blip, but I want to respond to this episode, and now I have a reason to do so again. This episode, entitled Titanfall, talked about the recent release, or 1 month ago release, of Titanfall, and how it wouldn't stay relevant past a couple of months. To this, many people have cried foul on the Game Overthinker, and I personally am one of them. Here's the thing, Bob. It is true that Titanfall's lifespan is tied to the online servers. Once those are gone, no one will be able to play Titanfall ever again. Well, except for maybe private servers. But regardless, it is a shame for any online game. But saying that it'll only be relevant for a short while to newcomers and then to the hardcore crowd for the rest of its lifespan is a gross misunderstanding of online gaming. I need to ask something. Who is the intended audience for Titanfall? It's for people who like first-person shooters, who are familiar with first-person shooters. If you pick up Titanfall as my first FPS because you believed the hype, then this is one of the cases where caveat emptor, or may the buyer beware, apply, since it was the buyer's fault for jumping onto a battlefield when they don't even know how to operate a gun, metaphorically speaking. But let's say you are a person who is moderately good at first-person shooters. You finish a lot of your matches on Call of Duty with a kill-to-death ratio around 2 to 1, and you're the best among your friends. You get Titanfall because your friends are playing it, and you like the idea of piloting a giant robot. Well, don't you think your skills would transfer over even a little bit? Don't you think your ability to play those first-person shooters would be applicable to Titanfall at least enough to get into the game? I think you would agree, Mr. Movie Bob, because I know there was an episode of the Game Overthinker where you said just that about the FPS genre. I just don't remember which one it was at the moment. Anyway, there will probably be a lot of people who will be that way. People who didn't jump on the bandwagon the moment it came by and had to catch up to it later down the road. And you want to know something? As long as this isn't their first FPS game ever, they will be fine. There will be a mix of people who are casual players, who are dedicated players, and even some that only play with friends in open servers. Hell, if the community is friendly, which is more important than your skill level, then they will welcome players of any skill with open arms. And something like that can keep a game going and growing for a very long time. Since I've squashed the Overthinker's other complaint concerning skill, let's talk about relevance. He claims that Titanfall will only stay relevant during the first few months, and then it will peter out. Now, it wouldn't be so bad if he was solely talking about Titanfall, but he makes it sound like this happens with every MMO FPS. With Titanfall, it's too early to tell how long it'll stay relevant, but with so many others, that is simply not true. I can name about 10 games off the top of my head that are MMO FPSs that are at least 5 years old and are still being played today. Most of the list is populated with games from Valve, but the fact is that not every massively multiplayer online first-person shooter is going to roll over and die within a few months. Why? Because they found ways to stay relevant. Team Fortress 2 certainly did that when they switched over to the free-to-play model. And when they did, their revenue stream jumped 12-fold. Yeah, it was that big of a deal. Game Overthinker, there were times when I was writing this when I thought to myself, wow, is the Overthinker growing old? It would be one thing if you were like Jim Sterling in his most recent YouTube posted episode of the Jimquisition, where he was talking to his birdies in the business and therefore had insider information to back up his claims. But here, it just feels like you were ranting with no base. Like an old man yelling at a cloud for no reason. Fair warning, an uneducated opinion is not a very good opinion to have. Now, I will admit, I personally will never get Titanfall unless it turns free to play. It's not because I think all multiplayer games should be free to play. I just don't want to drop $60 on a game that I may or may not like and will only be playing for about 20 to 60 minutes of escapism fun, maybe once a season if that. It's just too much of a gamble for me. Plus, I refuse to let EA have any of my money. But I like the idea of Titanfall, an online multiplayer game with what looks like a mix of parkour and first-person shooter elements, as well as the ability to pilot a giant robot. And it doesn't have microtransactions? Or are those being disguised as DLC? Either way, I like the idea of Titanfall. I just feel that the risk is too big for something that may or may not be rewarding for me. In conclusion, the Game Overthinker's assessment of Titanfall, as well as all MMO FPS games, was very shallow. It's too early to tell how long Titanfall will be relevant, but saying that all MMO FPS games become irrelevant or difficult to get into after the 2-month mark sounds like a claim that you have no evidence to support. Titanfall isn't for everyone, like me, but for the people that it is for, like the people who play and enjoy first-person shooters, it'll survive as long as they keep those servers running. Oh, and one more thing, Mr. Bob. Screw you for using that incredible VR Trooper reference, but not using it to reveal Senator Lieberson as the Ultra Thinker. It's just a dick move to have the chant, but not have a transformation. Just dick move.